Hey, what's going on? Ryan here at Intersection Records. And we're talking feuds. We're talking rock star feuds again. We've talked about, the Eagles and people, Roger Waters and his bandmates. Today, we're going to talk about the latest feud between Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. So obviously, those guys make up the core band, formed in the early 70s in New York, going on to be signed by Casablanca Records, and really changing the way some live performances were done with some theatrics, with some makeup, and played fairly decent music. I'm not a huge Kiss guy, but you know what? It angers me when these guys that are in their 70s have to make fun of each other on a personal level when they don't need to do that. They don't need any more money. Let's talk about a little bit what happened. So I guess Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were on Howard Stern earlier in this month of March. And, Stern asked, why do you refuse to play alongside Peter Criss and Ace Frehley? Especially when the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014. And Paul Stanley says, because if you saw people on stage who looked like Kiss but sounded like that, maybe we should be called Piss, P-I-S-S, instead of Kiss. How do you do that to your guys? Why do you need to use Howard Stern platform, that you're lucky to be on that show because you've been kind of irrelevant for 30 years? Dressing up in makeup, having two other guys in your band wear the same makeup as two guys that were the original members and impersonating them, having backing tracks, having fake background singing and backing tracks and playing to a drum click, and basically just putting on a Broadway show. So, what did Ace Frehley say next? He said, I'm going to make a statement to Paul Stanley right now. I'm telling you that if you don't formally apologize for what you said about sounding like Piss, in reaction, in some sort of retraction and an apology within 7 days, and if I don't get that within 7 days, I'm coming back on the Eddie Trunk Show. So he's saying this on the Eddie Trunk Show. He's going to come back on the show. Eddie Trunk's a famous DJ. And he says, if Eddie will have me, and I'm going to tell some dirt that nobody knows about Paul and Gene, that I've always kept to myself because I'm the kind of guy that doesn't talk about this. I like to talk about positive stuff. He goes on to say, Frehley goes on to say that he has a written 120-page manuscript detailing unspecific misdeeds of Stanley and Simmons. My attorney has it in a safety deposit box. God forbid anything happens to me. My attorney is instructed to release it to the New York Times, Rolling Stone, and the API, and everyone. So they can't intimidate me and try hurting. So they can't intimidate me without trying to hurt me and saying, you better not say anything live on the radio. Evidently, he says those guys are not squeaky clean. And that he has dirt on them that could damage them, So again, they're both on platforms live on Howard Stern and on Eddie Trunk Show, talking smack. Gene Simmons kicked those guys out, made those guys quit years and years ago many times, and they've always talked bad about Frehley, saying he's unfit to play, saying he's a drug addict. When they don't need to do that. They got gazillions of dollars and they play stadiums still. What does Ace Frehley have on those guys? Who knows? I think it's all unfortunate. I think these guys are beyond grown adults who've had successful careers, who needed each other to formulate the magic that made Kiss, one of the most overrated bands of all time. No, I'm kidding. It's just sad, you know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. And let me know what you think, you know. I mean, what does Ace have on these guys? Why does Gene Simmons, with all this money and fame and all the women he's bragged about sleeping with, why does he need to put those guys down? Why is Paul Stanley putting his bandmates down? What did they do to him? I don't know. Peace out. We'll see you later. Thanks.